Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare Ask Me Anything session. I'll introduce Miriam in a second here, and she'll give an overview of the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare, and then we'll get to some of your questions. So to share a little bit about Miriam, Miriam has been in the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare team since it launched in October 2020, and she is the group program manager leading the Cloud for Healthcare team. With that, I will turn it over to Miriam.
Thank you, Amy, and welcome everybody to this month's Ask Me Anything for the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare. Today we have 6 members of my team. And we have Rohan, we have Paul, Gupika, Madhu, Jason, and Eker, who will be answering your questions today. But before we jump into the questions, I'll be walking you through a little bit what is the Cloud for Healthcare and what can you do with it. I know this is originally hosted by the Dynamics 365 organization, but the Cloud for Healthcare spans across Dynamics, M365, Teams, and Azure. So anything fair game, please use your chat options and submit any additional questions. With that, I'll jump right in. So yeah, as you might know, healthcare is in transition. We have seen a lot of different things happen over the past year, and even before that, which was just accelerated by the pandemic over the last few months. First of all, one of the key things that's been driving our healthcare customers, like the drive to virtual health. More and more meetings with your provider is happening through telehealth. Now, the other thing is that from there, a key thing that providers care about is like, what is the data? Like once you're meeting now with your patient, you want to know about like what is going on with the patient. And a lot of the data that's in those different about the patient is in a lot of different systems. So getting interoperability, getting the data from different systems into your processes when you're reaching out to your patient becomes more and more important. Another item that a lot of insurance companies and providers are looking into is like, how do we improve the care of our patients? Like now we know a lot more about them, but how do we make the outcomes better? And then as we know, everything that's now in the cloud will become, needs to be protected, or any data that we now have has a high standard of protection. So how do we make sure that everything that you have is secure? Now, from a Microsoft perspective, we looked at some of these trends and we see that our customers are changing. So one of the things that we've been looking is like, how can we help our customers meet those needs and improve their outcomes and help in that digital transformation. So once we've released, as Amy mentioned, last year we released the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare, and since then we've been updating and improving the solutions that we have as part of it. But we've been centering our solutions across like 3 main areas. First, we've been looking at how can we help providers and payers and others to enhance their patient engagement? What are some of the data that we can bring to them to help with that engagement? And second, looking a little bit more not just at the engagement, but also the collaboration between the different providers in a company. How do we accelerate that ability for people to work together and coordinate their care with the customer? With their patient. And finally, or not finally, third, we've been looking at how do we improve clinical and operational insights. When we're bringing all this data together, we are collaborating, generating more data. How can we help you understand what you can improve in your clinical and operational processes? And then finally, across all of it, we always keep protecting your health information at the center of it. So how do we make sure that with the Cloud for Healthcare, you can enhance your patient engagement, empower your health teams, and how to improve your clinical operational insights while still having your data protected. We've kind of looked, when we're kind of going a step deeper into the Cloud for Healthcare, there's, like I mentioned, we have the data at the center, security and compliance to protect your healthcare around it. And then we've been looking at different capabilities across each of these areas. So how do we, when we think about enhancing patient engagement, how do we personalize your care? How do we create insights? And how do we make all of the care and engagement more virtual? On the empowering the health team collaboration, how do we help the care team to collaborate? How do we help them coordinate the care through pathways, through care plans and care management? But then also, how do we help with continuous patient monitoring that helps understand what's going on with the patient? And then to improve the clinical operational insights, how do we help with like clinical and operational analytics, but also how do we help with interoperability? And I wanted to kind of quickly show, I think we had one quick ask about, like, in the previous question, we had an ask about, like, how do we make this real? So this is a lot of marketing talk, now what is behind it? So I wanted to quickly show a little bit more about how you can learn and kind of go deeper from that marketing discussion to the next step, because we've been bringing together a lot of different technologies and a lot of different solutions into one place so that you can create your own scenarios and your own environment. So with that, I'll quickly open what we call the Microsoft Cloud Solution Center. So if you are, a customer of Microsoft and you are already, like, you maybe engaged with your sales team, you've actually at any time you can actually go into this Solution Center and look at what are all the solutions that make out these capabilities that I talked about a few minutes ago. And you can start learning more about it. Once you, so for example, you can say, oh, I want to know more about what is personalized care. You can use the Solution Center to understand what are some of the advantages of the personalized care solution, how we help customers enable this. For this, actually, we have two solutions that enable this capability. One is called Patient Access and Patient Service Center. Now, if you wanted to learn more about what are those, you can drill into the personalized care and you can learn more about each one of them, Patient Access and Patient Service Center. So for Patient Access, you might want to have different, you can learn again about more of what these things are. The Patient Access is a portal that you can deploy into your provider environment, where you can learn more about, or your patients can engage with you or connect with you. This solution is built on top of what we call Power Apps Portal, and it allows different configurations with other solutions. There are certain things, if you are interested in these things, you should connect to your Microsoft contact to help with installing or getting access to these capabilities. Now, if you wanted to see all the select the different capability to enable, you can do that through this drop-down, or you can look at all. And one thing I wanted to highlight, we are combining not just dynamic solutions, which you see this a little hard, but also you can enable virtual visits and other Azure capabilities. Now, one thing I wanted to highlight is the healthcare data model, which you can use right away without needing to have a license at this point. With that, this is kind of a bit about where what the solution is, what the Cloud for Healthcare is, some of the solutions that we are offering, and yeah, things that we can do with the cloud, or you can do with the Cloud for Healthcare. With that, I'm handing over back to Amy to go through some of the questions, and yeah, please feel free to ask more questions as well.
Thank you, Miriam. We had a handful of questions that were pre-submitted, so I'll walk through those first. First question, many of the solutions we saw today are focused on a subset of scenarios in the healthcare space. What about the other scenarios? Paul, can I hand it to you to answer?
Great question. So I would share that the Cloud for Healthcare is currently being used across provider, payer, and pharma scenarios. So whether that's like our no-code configuration or using one of our partners, we're supporting critical business processes across provider, payer, and pharma. Actually, one top pharma we spoke with just recently has tens of thousands of Power Apps, so super exciting. And as we build out more solutions and focus for the Cloud for Healthcare, our capabilities, we'll continue to keep sub-industry segments in mind. Yeah, great question.
All right, the next question I'll hand to Madhu. What is top of mind for you when thinking about key challenges in the provider and payer space?
So it's been an interesting discovery of identifying, what are the challenges with interoperability. As you've seen that, our framework has data at the center of, all of the services and applications and insights that we build. Both payers and providers are hungry for access to not just the ability to converge and bring data together that exist in their internal systems, but also the ability to talk to external systems and third-party sources. So when you think about the data landscape, there is structured data, there is unstructured data, there is diagnostic data, clinical data, there is claims data, like there is, in fact, the clinical data, like all of that is something that our customers are looking for to bring together to generate the right insights in a timely fashion. And the ability to do that is something that's challenging, since you're also working through a space where you have legacy systems and something that you're using that's more newer. Some of them are trying to adopt the FHIR framework, but how do you get the legacy data to talk to, the newer frameworks that you're trying to adopt? So, and then there is also skill gaps in being able to adopt the right technology. So that's a big challenge that we see. And on the backdrop of COVID, the need for having access to, good data that can generate more, predictive analytics has grown so much that it has become an imperative that we have a solve for, interoperability across the verticals. And, the big talk right now is around vertical integration. How do we have the payer and the provider talk to each other on one end, and the other is creating a view of the patient where it's called the longitudinal, patient record, which means that every interaction that a patient has with the provider network and with the payers, those are tracked, and we're able to create a unified profile of a patient. So you could call it a patient 360, or you could call it a member 360, depending on whether you're looking at the provider or the payer. So what we provide in our stack is the ability to, bring in integrated support for this unified data strategy. So, we have the Azure Data Platform, and just recently we have released the Azure FHIR, the Azure API for FHIR that's built on, open source FHIR standards that allows you to seamlessly bring in data from disparate sources, right? And actually have it reside in the cloud, and then layer that on top of the Dataverse that we have that's able to manage your operational data, run hundreds of apps that are powered by our Power Apps Power Portal, and then be able to use the connectors from Dataverse into Synapse to be able to do not only just traditional data warehousing, but generate insights and do big data analytics at scale. So, that unified platform is what, gives you the ability to start solving for interoperability challenges. And it by no means is something that we can solve in a day, but we have the right tools and the technology to enable it. And the last but not the least is the governance framework that we have, because as Miriam showed that, privacy and compliance is key for our customers. So when you think of governance, Purview provides that end-to-end governance on the Azure stack. So that's basically what we're seeing, and we're excited that we can, have answers to problems that we see with interoperability in the industry today.
Next question I'm going to throw to Jason. With all the technical challenges you're solving for our customers, what are you most excited about coming up next?
So probably one of the most exciting things for me in terms of the work that we're working on is a recent preview that is or should be available pretty soon, which is with the healthcare data tables. And healthcare data tables for the Microsoft Cloud for Health is all about allowing Dataverse to be a responsible actor with the data that you're bringing into the cloud, so that the work that you have to do and the places that you store the data, your healthcare data within the cloud, we can use properly use the assets that you have. So in the first iteration of this work, this preview work, we're really targeting the Azure FHIR server, the API for FHIR, and saying, hey, you know what? You've already done all the hard work to get this data into your FHIR server. Let's use it as it exists in the FHIR server. Let's let Dataverse and all of its apps use the data in the FHIR server if you have that. And so you don't have to worry about replicating all of your medical data from the Fire server into Dataverse. But likewise, we also know that some customers don't have a Fire server, and they specifically want to bring in Dataverse so that it can store some of that medical data. And for those customers, this feature really allows us to scale to both architectures, allow customers to utilize their investments in let's say a Fire server, or utilize Dataverse as the persisted transactional layer of the data. So I think that really is going to open up some great possibilities for our customers in terms of the scale, in terms of their journey to the cloud.
Next pre-submitted question, I'm going to throw to Paul. Paul, can you tell us more about the Cloud for Healthcare data model and how we can participate in it?
Definitely. Thanks, Amy. Another great question. So data model is near and dear to our hearts. We've aligned the data model, as Jason and others have shared, closely to the HL7 Fire standard. And as Miriam mentioned, that same data model, whether you want to use our first-party experience as our first-party IP, or if you want to use our data model standalone, that's available in Dataverse for Dataverse customers for free and available for download from Solution Center. So that's a nice way of consuming the model, whether you want to have your own solution or purchase one of our IP model-driven experiences. So regarding participation and giving ideas and feedback, we've already received a ton of great ideas and feedback from our customers and our partner engagements. So I would say, stay close to your partners, stay close to your account teams. But then in addition, if you haven't already used the ideas, I would learn about the ideas site. That's at experience.dynamics.com. And it's a great way of sharing ideas and feedback on not only the data model, but all of our IP. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Speaking of ideas and what you're hearing from customers, Ron, I'm going to throw it to you. What is a key ask you are hearing already from your customers?
Thanks, Amy. Yes, so Madhu touched on this, but many customers are interested in seeing a longitudinal patient record. And so that's a record that captures everything about a patient, so from lots of different data sources and all their interactions with the clinic. And so Madhu covered some of the data side of this, but on the experience side, we've built out a patient view to help organizations visualize patient information. That's being released this week in preview, which is super exciting. Customer Insights also provides opportunities to connect to other systems, and we're really excited about opportunities there moving forward. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Rohan. Gopika, I'm going to send a question to you now. Can you tell us more about how you're enabling the care teams?
Sure. I'm going to share my screen so I can walk you through the experience of how we're using our solutions to enable care teams. This is the patient view that Rohan just mentioned. So when we talk about enabling patient team members, what this view brings is a unified look into what the patient's journey has been so far, including the historic interactions the patient has had with the team, the patient's clinical and relevant non-clinical data, removing some of the barriers that care team members are facing or the challenges that they face while doing handoff of a patient and sharing history about the patient's interactions with them, right? So along with the data about the patient, there's also this clinical timeline view. The clinical timeline view which sort of maps out all the encounters that the patient has had with the different team members, giving everyone an idea of what are the different steps that the patient has gone through, therefore giving them more information about what they need to recommend next. The care management solution, which is actually what the patient view is part of, also helps also allows users to create care plans and associated care teams for individual care plans. So what individual patients can have multiple care plans, and these care plans, the solution allows you to add team members and the team member roles that are part of they're associated with the individual care plan, and they're working with the patient on that particular care plan. For example, in this view, if I was a nutritionist and I want to learn more about the past physiotherapy session that Maria has had and what her progress has been, I will be able to go into the care team member view here, find out who is the person working with her, who's a physiotherapist based on the role, and reach out to the care team member directly right from within this experience, so I can learn more about how the last session went. So this is one of the ways in which care team members collaborate on a particular patient's patient care. But we understand that there are also needs for the care team members to collaborate in a broader sense, maybe on a list of patients or on activities that are outside of patient care plan. For this, we recommend using Teams collaboration platform. So Teams offers templates that are specifically predefined for healthcare with the settings and channel recommendations tailored to healthcare scenarios. So using one of these templates, you can create a care team channel, a care team within Teams, and start collaborating on the progress of different team members or on activities that you're tracking. Progress on different patients or on activities that you're tracking outside of patient care. And one of the cool things about Teams is also, since it integrates with the hospital workforce systems, it also gives every team member a view into the schedule of all the others who are working in the team, therefore enabling them to manage and coordinate their schedule, request to swap schedules or on a request time off directly from this experience. So these are the different ways in which we enable care team members to coordinate on a particular patient or outside of the patient view across different patients, and also managing their activities outside of patient care.
All right, and I'll give another question to Miriam then. What role do partners play in the cloud for healthcare?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. And we hear that a lot. So a lot of our partners and customers are asking, but we have a lot of partners built on Dynamics and other solutions. How can they play a role in a cloud for healthcare? And they're instrumental to our cloud for healthcare. So for example, anytime we will have a lot of solutions like the care management application that Gopika just walked through that provide maybe a starting point for you to think about how are you going to improve your care team collaboration. But we can see our partners play a role in every layer of our solutions. We see them helping our customers get ready and use our solutions through system integration. We see them helping build some of the data connections that Madhu and Jason were talking about. We can see them leveraging the data model that Paul was talking about to create their own solution, similar to what Gopika was showing. So we see that our partners will be building, or are building actually already, their own care management solution that are more specific to their customers or more specific in a region. Or we already are seeing customers that are wanting to build up more AI-based insights that then can be part of the longitudinal record that Rohan was talking about. So partners will play are playing a key instrumental role then when we're enabling a lot of different scenarios for them to build out their own solutions and help our customers take our platform even further.
Thank you. And one more question for you, Miriam. What are the advantages of the Microsoft Cloud for healthcare?
Yes, of advantages. I hope you saw a lot of the things that we talked about today as an advantage, but just to kind of sum up to just sum up some of the things that you saw today and what you can do with it. So first of all, it's with the Cloud for Healthcare or any of our industry clouds, we've been bringing together the powers of all three Microsoft clouds, the Dynamics 365, M365, and Azure, to build a cohesive experience for you to solve your industry needs. So with that, you see how can you leverage, let's say, like as in the example of care management, how can you leverage both Teams and Dynamics in a cohesive way so that you can solve your business problems? So when you're thinking about the Cloud for Healthcare, you should think about like bringing together the power of all three of your data with your collaboration and your business processes. And the Cloud for Healthcare will helps you make that easier to create and leverage directly things that we created, but also build your own that might be more unique to your business processes. So that's my answer.
Sounds good. Excellente. All right, well, I think we have answered all the questions that were pre-submitted, and I don't see new questions on the chat. So with that, I will thank you all for joining. Thank you for your questions that you've pre-submitted. And to remind you to share your input, share your ideas, and you can find out more information about the Microsoft Cloud for Healthcare on the Microsoft website as well as the community sites. And we'll be sharing some links for how to easily get to those areas as well. So with that, thank you very much.